Hi, it's Elle here. So today I want to discuss my predicted timeline for the rollout of various cybernetic technologies and medical advancements. This is a tough subject for me to discuss. I don't in any way endorse transhumanism or making cyborgs out of humans. I think it's a despicable thing that was done in the Cybernetics Mars labs because they abducted humans, unwilling humans, and they made human cyborgs out of them, literally infusing cybernetic technologies with human body parts and taking people's souls and putting those souls into cyborgs. That's what was done on Mars in those cybernetic labs. I was a witness to it, and I actually worked in those cybernetic labs. So I was also made into a human cyborg. So anyone who tells me that I'm inserting myself into this narrative, I was part of that history. I was in the narrative on Mars where the cyborgs were made in those cybernetic labs. It happened to me, and now it's being planned for Earth. Recently, there was documentation that was released called Cyborg Soldier 2050 that the U.S. Army is planning to create augmented humans with cybernetic implants for cyborg soldiers, and that these implants will be possible by the year 2030 and going on forwards to 2050s. So, and I had been having a conversation actually with an individual who is in the film TV industry. They asked to remain anonymous, so I am respecting their privacy, but I am going to be sharing my end of the text messenger conversation that I had with that individual, because it actually leads up to the predicted timeline of the various rollouts for the cybernetic tech and also medical advancements that I was disclosing to this individual. I was saying that it looks like what happened on Mars is leading up to the possibility of the same stuff happening on Earth. So this is my side of these conversations. And again, I don't endorse transhumanism. I don't endorse making cyborgs out of humans. That is the most atrocious thing that can be done to humans, infusing them with cybernetic technologies that literally can take control of you and make you into a cyborg. It's horrible. It's atrocious. The atrocities that I saw on Mars were despicable. Humans are enslaved. Humans are used for experiments that go beyond human rights. So it's lawless on Mars. There's lawlessness. There's no human rights protection at all. I'm against that. I hope that never happens on Earth. So I think it's wrong what is being planned for 2050 to make human cyborgs out of soldiers. It's totally leading up to the agenda of transhumanism. I don't endorse that. I think it's wrong. But that's why I'm sharing this documentation and the various exchanges from my end concerning what I know that was done on Mars and what's being planned for Earth. It's not a timeline that I endorse, but it looks like the plans are in the works for this. So I'm just going to start sharing what my end of the conversation was. So I started September 15th, 2019 at 8 p.m. I said that 2030s will be the tech and med era of more advanced applications, and 2020s will begin to debut some new things, like the biological medications with no side effects or very few ones that are tolerable, meds that actually work to stop disorders or diseases. I had been given drug serums on Mars to stop my autoimmune issues. And those drug serums worked because they're made biologically and not synthetic medications. So that's what I mean by biological medications. They're made out of natural things like human plasma, derivatives from herbs and stuff. So that's what I mean by biological medications. They're not synthetic. They're not genetically engineered. On Mars, I had access to advanced genetic testing and gene therapy tech at my disposal in various drug serums, holographic medical pods, and Meditech units, and the regeneration tanks. This is the best tech that was out there, and it's about 200 years more advanced than what Earth has. I was able to work with all the tech as an end user and operate it on others. Yes, that technology is very advanced. Holographic medical pods, drug serums, medical technologies that provide life extension, Meditech units, and regeneration tanks. But that also can be used for wrong purposes to hurt people. And it was used in the cybernetic labs to actually keep people in stasis, in the regeneration tanks against their will. Medical pods can also be programmed to hurt others. So this technology can be used for the good of helping to heal people and for bad purposes to hurt people. It goes both ways. It seems that 2030 and 2050 is the projected time frame for mind synthetic telepathy. I had mentioned that the biological medicines rollout into the public medical system was going to be 2030s and 2060s, and other advancement in technology according to the SSP Mars timeline for what is in the works for Earth. Seems it's all running on schedule for these various rollouts, and I'm seeing biological medicines coming out, like the CGRP drugs for migraines. Those drugs are making it possible to stop some types of migraines. And it's basically the CGRP drugs, you self-infuse it into yourself. It's subcutaneous and it gives you relief from migraines, so you don't have to pop pills every day. And it seems some of these CGRP drugs, like Amavig, they have less side effects. Amavig does have constipation side effects sometimes. It really depends on the person using it. And there's others coming out. I've seen these drugs come out. They are expensive, but they're coming out and apparently giving some people migraine relief for like a month while they're on them. And there's more of these drugs coming out. Amavig was the first one. And there's 3 others that are currently in the works, like Ajovi and 2 others. So this started in 2018, these drugs coming out, and more of them are being put on the market, especially to stop chronic migraines or migraines that are becoming chronic. So I'm seeing this coming forward on the medical market. That's the first thing I noticed, the signs. Medication's changing. It's no longer pills. It's biological medications coming out. And I'm using what's called subcutaneous immunoglobulin therapy to basically heal my autoimmune system and reverse brain damage and stuff That's been around for a long time. There's also intravenous immunoglobulin therapy. That's been around for a long time, and I've used both, and it's helped to improve my vision. It's stopped my allergies. It's reset my autoimmune system. I've gotten rid of my white matter lesions that were deep in my brain. It stopped memory lapses that I've been having problems with. It's improved my vision. I no longer have double blurry vision. I could see much better. I had astigmatism, so I need glasses, but basically I'm unable to wear strong prescription glasses. So doing the subcutaneous immunoglobulin therapy, the human plasma infusions for myself, home infusions, has helped to improve my vision, remove lesions in my brain, improved my memory. It's even lessened some of my migraines a little bit. It's helped with that. So there are medications out there in the medical system that have been here for a long time that actually help biological medications. And I remember knowing about these biological medications from my memory recalls of actively working in the cybernetic labs, working with the biological medications, the drug serums, to them being given to me and others to stop diseases and disorders. So I decided to try the subcutaneous immunoglobulin therapy treatments, infusions, home infusions on myself to see if that would reset my autoimmune system, and it did, because it worked for me on Mars and it still works for me on Earth. And that came all from my memories, that I didn't have much medical research or background for that stuff. That's all from my memory of what used to be done to me on Mars. So I tried it here and it worked for me. And I'm still doing the biological medicine. I'm still going that route because synthetic medicine doesn't really do much for me, unfortunately. So I have to think outside the box and use off-label medications to help myself, to improve my health. And that's all knowledge that came from Mars and was still in my memories to this day. So that's why I was talking about biological medications with the individual describing what that is. And I thought I'd describe it in a bit of a more self-explanatory way here, because I'm using it to help improve my own health. So I thought I'd give a bit of a background on what that is and why it works for me. So the discussion about the 2030s and 2050s, that started on November the 2nd, 2019 at 8:12 p.m. This conversation, and it leads up to the Cyborg Soldier 2050 documentation. It all leads up to that. But it starts with these earlier conversations that I'm seeing the timeline agenda rollout being perpetrated right now since September. I mentioned that it's interesting events happening about a doctor reanimating a patient whose blood had been drained from him, and the patient was temporarily placed in cryogenic suspension. I had been discussing reanimating the dead, that the Mars SSP has that technology and has had it for like so many years. So now a doctor has tried it out and was on Earth and was able to successfully put somebody in temporary cryogenic suspension, drain their blood to prevent them from dying in the cryogenic suspension, and do a 2-hour surgery on the patient because the patient was going to die, and reinserted the patient's blood back into them. It's called plasmapheresis, the process of plasmapheresis, because you can remove somebody's blood, clean it out, and reinsert it back into the person. And when you're flushing the blood out of the person, saline is put in temporarily. So the technique of cryogenic suspension has been done and successfully tried out now on Earth a couple of months ago. That was in an article that it was done. That's one of the other things that is fascinating to me, because cryogenic suspension has been perfected in the US Mars SSP. As well, now that the US government has been studying anti-gravity tech for almost 70 years, going back to the 1950s. That was on the news. The US Army and Navy started the US SSP on the moon and then Mars in the 1950s. That's something that's in my memories, as well as in Project Horizon, that the US Army and Navy were planning to build a base on the moon in the 1950s, starting underground at first to protect the base from being hit by asteroids and other space debris. That's in the Project Horizon documentation. The plans for building a moon base from 1950s to 1960s and onwards. So that's actual documentation that's a couple of 100 pages worth that I've read. So those topics have been covered. The plans were there, and the infrastructure is there on the moon and Mars now. It's been 70 years, so it's there. And these are topics I covered happening in my SSP presentations and interviews starting from 2016 until 2018. That all of that has already been done in the SSP, because it has. The US was the second country after the Germans to have one of the biggest SSP programs behind the scenes on the moon and Mars, where Earth was locked out of all of that for secrecy. And the SSP is the Secret Space Programs acronym. So we on Earth don't have the same advanced technologies that's already available on Mars and the moon. We just don't have it. We've been shut out, locked out in the secrecy truth embargo that's been going on for close to 70 years, maybe even more, even like 100 years. It depends on who you ask. So the timer is already ticking. First, there was the article about being able to change blood types with gut bacteria from the UBC University of British Columbia. That's actually here in British Columbia, Canada. Then the article about a nanotech device that can regenerate skin and organs. Then CRISPR-Cas9 and full gene editing. Now reanimating someone successfully from temporary cryogenic suspension, as well as the US government studying anti-gravity technologies for the last 70 years. All that stuff coming out in 2019 is cranking up the agenda dial to get it moving along for dripping out bits of the truth, bit by bit, one at a time. So this truth agenda embargo, things are starting to come out, what's going on. But it's all being done in kind of like, oh, this is possible, this can be done now, we can do this. And like people like Bob Lazar have come forward saying that alien reproduction vehicles have been reproduced in Area 51 and an S4 section. So I think the US government has been not just studying anti-gravity technology, but also reverse engineering alien technologies for close to 70 years, if not more. There's Groom Lake, there's underground facilities, Black Ops underground facilities doing all kinds of experimentation, not just building alien craft reproducing extraterrestrial crafts that have crashed on Earth. There's like genetic experimentation, cloning, building cyborgs. That's all been done. It's nothing new here. It's just slowly starting to come out what's possible. Even Fox News is talking about UFOs. Usually the timer is drip is slower now. It's cranking up more so than the snail's crawl pace that it usually is. I notice what is being cranked out on the SSP timer conveyor belt for Earth to get. It's done in precise measurements and on exact dates. Interactive nanotech in our brains will be the next thing to come out in a few years as a way of slowly replacing the World Wide Web. They're talking already, Elon Musk and others are talking about having implants in our brains that will replace the World Wide Web. So you no longer have to sit behind a computer to access the internet. You can do it through your brain with small little implants in your head. And you can telepathically talk to other people and communicate with others through neural brain implants. Neural brain implants, yes. That's a mouthful to say. Neural brain implants that will give you the ability to create synthetic telepathic communication with others in your brain, in your head. You won't need cell phones anymore. Everybody thinks that's the greatest, best technology, smartphones. There's something better out there, and that's the neural brain circuitry implants that will eventually replace iPads, cell phones, supercomputers, etc., etc. You'll be able to do a phone call in your brain one day, or just telepathically knock on somebody's Neuralink cyber door in their brain and ask to talk to them. That's what that neural brain technology is. That's what it allows you to do. Right now, the talk is about having microchips in people's hands as ID and payment method. It's just a small ploy to see how many beguiled idiots would buy into that. Apparently not many. Microchips are not the way of the future. Microchips is to just track you, to control your brain, control your body. Microchips are primitive. The full neural brain circuitry implants, that's the advanced tech. Microchips are just small part of the scale of what they want to do as a way of keeping your medical data, your ID, payment method, all in your hand. But that's really primitive. The real tech is the interactive nanotech, the neural brain enhancement implants that are in the brain. That kind of stuff will be more tempting though, because it allows you to do so much with synthetic telepathy in your brain. That's the stuff that is more exciting to hear about, and the possibilities, what it can do. And you don't need a cell phone, you don't need a computer, you don't need a laptop or an iPad anymore, because you can do all the brain computing in your head. But those things, those neural brain implants, can also malfunction and create brain damage, can create a lot of neurological damage to the brain and the body. So there's a price that comes with having that in your head. It's not just all peachy and joy-filled. Oh my goodness, now I can do this and that. I can telepathically communicate with the world. Those things can be hacked, and you can be mind-controlled as well. So there's some benefit, and there's a lot of bad things that could happen with those neural brain implants. It's literally transhumanism making itself into the world on Earth. It's a cautionary tale of not repeating what happened on Mars. The more technology we get, the more biohacked we can become. Our bodies cybernetically augmented. It can be hacked, things can go wrong, and things can become bad in a nanosecond, literally. I decided to add a bit of an image that's black and white of what this cybernetic Neuralink implant connected to the neurons and axons in the human brain actually looks like. It's like these little fiber optic fibers literally intertwining with the neurons and the axons of somebody's brain. That's how these cybernetic Neuralink implants attach themselves in people's brains. And it's so microscopic, it can't even be seen on an MRI machine or through a CT scan or an fMRI. It's so small, it's microscopic. You can't see it with the current technology that we have in the medical systems. So I thought I'd include an image of what it looks like, what the simulation looks like of these future implants. I wouldn't want it again in my brain because it malfunctioned and leaked gold. I had one of the best complex Neuralink implants in my head that allowed me to do a lot of different things, but it malfunctioned and gave me lesions in my brain. I don't want that again in my head. I don't want it in our near future. It's not something that I think we should do. I don't think we should mess around with human biology and infuse ourselves with cybernetics and make ourselves human cyborgs. I'm against that. No, thank you. So on November 24th, 2019 at 11:35 a.m., I said to the individual who I was exchanging the text messages with, it will be interesting to see what happens in the 2020s and 2030s if the Gateway Foundation and other investors actually build the Von Braun space station and then the Gateway port. Then those are indicators that the rollout is on a bigger scale, more quicker, since the US SSP already has had these types of space stations since the 1960s. Wernher von Braun was the head of NASA back then. Like, he was literally making schematic plans to build circular type gravity space stations. He even contracted with the Disney Channel and showcased his plans. So that did secretly happen behind closed doors. Wernher von Braun literally helped the SSP to build these space stations in around Mars and Earth orbit. We just don't see them because these things have cloaking. They also have engines so they can be moved at a second's notice. And the ISS cameras don't focus on them, so none of this is recorded. They're up there. They've been there since the 1960s, these space stations. Yet the Gateway Foundation now is saying that to honor Wernher von Braun, they're going to build such a space station with hotels on it and labs to study gravity in upper Earth orbit. Shuttles can dock with the space station and, go to restaurants, do business, stay at the hotel, participate in lab research, have their own cabins, literally, for NASA, for Lockheed Martin to be on the space station, for Bigelow Aerospace, and so many of these private aerospace contractors to do work on that space station and to be possible investors for it. So the plan is to build the Gateway Foundation Wernher von Braun space station by 2025 and to do the Gateway Port project, huge Gateway Port, by the 2030s, and then go on to land craft on the moon to build a lunar moon base and then to put astronauts back on Mars and to eventually build bases on Mars. That's all been done. This is old news. But yet they're saying that they're going to do all that in the near future. I think it's a cover-up. It's been done. This is nothing new. But it's being touted as something that's soon to come in our near future. The fact that Fox News is reporting on UFO existence and that the US government has been studying anti-gravity for 70 years is something. The fact that it's being reported in the news is something. Before, all news media would ridicule UFOs. Now the culture of the masses is changing. Fascination with outer space travel, aliens, extraterrestrials, and new exoplanets being discovered has folks wanting answers and wanting more to know about these things. Is it real? Where is it? How? Where? When? Why? Those are all the questions we're asking about UFOs and advanced technology and the truth embargo. Again, when, where, how, and why? Right from the start, when I came out with my SSP disclosure, it was about the Cybernetics labs on Mars, then the holographic medical pods, and the ship technology. My testimony has never changed. It's always been the same. There's no huge variation in it. There's no huge narrative as it was, so it has been described. I have nothing to hide. I don't participate in the secret space program anymore. I was let go in 2014, but they used to still take me on and off for missions. So this is not new information that I'm disclosing right now. It's the same stuff I've been saying since 2016. I just decided to share it with this individual that's in the film/TV industry. Common interests and stuff. So I just, shared it with them. Because I guess they have some interest in it as well. So I was just sharing my story with them on Messenger. That's all that was. But the stuff about the cybernetics, Neuralink implants coming out, and the medical stuff, and the space stations, that's something that's currently happening in our culture, plans for all of that. So that's why I decided to share these messenger texts in my public disclosure again. Because I think we should be aware of what's going on and not to have a negative future timeline where everybody is implanted with Neuralink implants and we've suddenly become human cyborgs. That's not the future I want for us. That's why I'm disclosing this. Let's not have the same thing that happened on Mars repeat itself on Earth. Because that's not good. I don't want that happening. That's why I'm doing this presentation, really. Because I see the signs of this happening here, and I don't want that. No, thank you. I don't give permission for that. I tried my best to organize the messenger text information in chronological order of dates and time. But sometimes some of the stuff I posted was later than I put earlier time because just chronologically it made more sense in the way I organized it. Because the other post was from November 29, 2019 at 11:35 a.m. And then this one is from November 29, 2019, 10:45 a.m. So just to me, it sometimes the timestamps are a little bit like forward and going backwards. Is just the subject matter, the way it's organized. It just made more sense to put one thing first and the other thing second. But it's all time-stamped. I have nothing to hide. Everything is organized according to exactly what was said and when it was said. So this post mentions cybernetics and nanotech implementation by the 2030s, 2050s agenda rollout by Mars SSP for Earth soldiers, and even in civilian medical markets. Like I have been saying, it's coming. I did a little digging and found this comprehensive documentation today. And that documentation was the Cyborg Soldier 2050 human machine fusion and the implications for the future of the DoD. So I sent the film/TV industry individual the Cyborg Soldier 2050 document, as well as the Cyborg Medical Planetary Corporation's Labs on Mars basis presentation that I've had published since 2017. So I sent the individual the PDFs both for the Cyborg Soldier 2050 file and the Cyborg Medical PLC Labs on Mars basis, just for comparison and contrast. And I said that my Cyborg Labs presentation had been officially published on YouTube on March 18th, 2017, so I could not have known about the Cyborg Soldiers document to the DoD that was being produced from September 2018 until August 2019. But if you read my presentation, and the document for the DoD sounds familiarly eerie. It's like so much familiarity. It's so familiar, it's so eerie, and almost the same. How would I know how to augment human cyborgs with advanced military combat nanotech? But I do, because that is what I did in the Cybernetics labs on Mars. I did participate in that history. I was there. So I have memories of it, because that's what I did on Mars. Everyone is asking for proof. Well, there is my presentation, and I have a date stamped that it came out before September 2018. And as well, I have been telling you for quite a while the Mars SSP agenda for rolling out cybernetics nanotech with human augmentation for the timeline of 2030s to 2060s on Earth. So that document for the DoD corroborates what I have been telling you all along, and even trying to show you in my presentations by sending you links and files of a few of my different presentations about what happened to me on the Mars basis and the Cybernetics labs. Because I've been sharing the same testimony since 2016. Nothing has really changed in terms of that, except now there's the narrative to build cyborg soldiers on Earth by 2050. So it's like history repeating itself. The disasters of Mars now coming to Earth. There needs to be more awareness about this, and that timeline shouldn't happen. It should be avoided at all cost. I'm sharing this info as a cautionary tale, not to scare people, not to make that cyborg timeline come true, but to bring awareness to it so it doesn't happen. This is why I'm sharing this documentation and these text message exchanges. Here I am describing what happened to me with the Neuralink implants, telling the story to the individual in text. I had to literally do psychic surgery on myself to remove my nanotech Neuralink implants in my brain that were made from tiny, tiny gold fibers that were interwoven throughout the neurons in my brain and also axons in my brain. The gold had started to leak, and there was no one to fix the damage since my Neuralink implants were advanced alien tech inserted in the Mars Cybernetics labs with ET and human teams. Those Neuralink implants allowed me to do long-range remote viewing in outer space, and also to do long-range telepathic communications with anyone that I wanted. I have managed to retrain my brain to fully use my psychic abilities on my own to make up for the missing Neuralink implants augmentation. The only problem I get is The more I use my psychic abilities, the more migraines I get. So I have to pace myself in how I choose to use my abilities. And how would I know how to turn back time? By using intravenous immunoglobulin therapy, human plasma, to get rid of the white matter, lesion scar tissue left by my Neuralink implants. They started malfunctioning in 2017. Prior to that, I had no lesions in my brain. So what I did was go deep in my memories on autoimmune and brain treatments for how to reduce lesion loads for my Mars training, and removed my own brain lesions by literally using human plasma through intravenous immunoglobulin therapy and then subcutaneous immunoglobulin therapy with self-injections. And I still do this on a monthly basis and will have to do probably for the rest of my life in order to keep autoimmune health. And then on November 29th, 2019 at 12:51 p.m., I sent the individual the following. If you read page 22 of my Cyborg Labs presentation, it discusses the ocular and deep brain implants and what the capabilities are. Remarkably, like in the DoD document, so very similar capabilities. My presentations concerning the SSP come directly from my mind memories. I do not research anything except finding likeness reference images after my write-ups are done. And then I sent the individual the disclosure about the secret space programs in the Dark Fleet PDF document. This presentation was released on YouTube on July 24th, 2016. Have a look at page 23 and 24 about humans being made into cyborgs and the smart suits. The enhanced armor suits, that is what is being discussed in the DoD document, are quite similar to what I had already discussed in the 2016 presentation. My presentations are like how-to plans to what all the nanotech and the smart suits look like. The DoD documentation is also about how-to plans for these things. What I find very interesting is that Penny Bradley had described on October 2016 that she's still in the secret space program, that she did a flyover one of the Mars cybernetic labs and destroyed it. She had described that in an interview. She and I were the first women to discuss cyborg soldiers being made on Mars, that this is still happening in the here and the now in 2016. There was nobody else talking about those particular SSP experiences, having them on Mars. Only me and Penny Bradley were describing that. We were the only two women doing it. Others were describing having been soldiers in the SSP, pilots, being kidnapped into it. I wasn't a soldier. I was not a pilot per se. I had the Neuralink implants that allowed me the capability of piloting and designing ships, but I was never an active pilot. I was placed in the Cybernetics labs program to build cyborgs. I have no medical background at all. I'm a researcher. I could do deep diving research and find a lot of credible medical research, a lot of research on technology, etc., etc. I have zero medical background, yet I'm good at data mining, I'm good at research, so I was put into the Cybernetics labs where I did a lot of experimental research. I did a lot of research on genetics, experimentation, and I actively physically participated and all the medical research that I did, physically implementing it to build cyborgs. So sometimes your ability to be a good researcher is actually used to then physically do things with that research, to implement it on human beings as experiments. And that's what I was doing in those cybernetics labs. Physically augmenting humans with cybernetic technology to make them into cyborg soldiers and scouts, to be traded for extraterrestrials for other favors like advanced technology, medicine, trading routes, you name it, it was exchanged for. Humans were literally made into cyborgs, augmented, and then shipped out in stasis pods to extraterrestrials for God knows what. To be used as slaves as well. That was all done. Penny and I described it in great detail in 2016 and still are describing it to this day to raise awareness. So on November 29th, 2019 at 2:49 p.m., I wrote the following. The DoD document states that the study aimed to go even beyond the cyborg human component and also enabled the use of genetic engineering, synthetic biology, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, and other emerging technologies. I have been discussing how my Neuralink implants were nanotech and that the smart suits are also nanotech. All in the presentations is real-world evidence. Now that the DoD doc came out, my testimony is credible. It's real. Penny and I have been describing it for the last several years, so it's nothing new. But it's now being described for implementation in the U.S. Army for building cyborg soldiers out of humans. So in a way, I was a cyborg human experiment on the Mars Cybernetics labs, since I had complex brain Neuralink implants installed in those very same labs, and I came back to Earth with those 4 implants. I'm just reading the full DoD doc, and like was done to me, my Neuralink implants were intertwined with my neurons in the brain. The same would be done with the neurons in someone's missing eye. When it's replaced with a cybernetic eye, the neurons still must be connected, even with the cybernetic eye implant, to function, since it works with a biological system. So even though you might have a cybernetics eye, it's still going to be connected to the neurons of your biological functions in your eye socket. Obviously, my Neuralink implants that were embedded in my brain did not require for the removal of my eyes, so the nanotech implants tech that I had is much more advanced than what is initially coming out in 2050 on Earth, but still it is comparable in descriptions of the functions for what the implants can do. Yes, my Neuralink implants were more advanced, but what they're planning to do on Earth is still comparable because it's cybernetics being fused with human biology. The Cyborg Soldier 2050 documentation is 42 pages long. It describes the plans for how the technology will work to augment human soldiers, to fuse them with cybernetics in order to make them into human cyborgs. And it also describes the social human implications of introducing cybernetics technology into Earth society and how there could be medical repercussions and implications, that these cybernetics implants bring a lot of benefit and medical improvements to human beings who've lost their arms, eyesight, the fact that you can now have a cybernetic limb for an arm or a leg that will replace the fact that you've lost a leg due to accidents as soldiers your arm was blown up, your leg was torn off, you've had amputation, you've lost your legs and your arms. Now you can have a cybernetic leg and walk again, or a cybernetic arm, and you can pick things up again and have the use of your arm through the cybernetics, or a leg. Or you can have the ocular implants and have some form of eyesight again, or cochlear implants for hearing, that you can regain your hearing almost fully. So that's the benefits of those cybernetics implants. But they can also malfunction, and you can have brain damage or other physical body damage if those implants don't work correctly. So they also discuss the human rights aspect in the report. So it's not just describing the cybernetic tech, the benefits, but also how society could react to it, or will react, the negative feedback and pushback from humans not wanting cybernetics, but how the benefit outweighs the negative feedback, basically. So that's all described in the documentation. It is long, it's 42 pages. I read some of it, not all of it. I mostly concentrated on the 4 case studies in how the cyborg tech will work with augmentation for humans, to make humans into cyborg soldiers. That's what I had, my experiences on Mars with all that stuff. So that's what I focused on in this document. What is the cyborg tech that humans will be augmented with by 2030 and 2050s? I was drawn to the cybernetic technology naturally. What will that look like by 2030 and 2050? And I did briefly read the societal implications and what that can entail briefly, but not all the documentation. So on November 29th, 2019 at 8:37 p.m., I said that I read the case studies in the U.S. Army Cyborg Soldiers doc, and the cybernetics tech plans have many different types of implants, and even the smart suit tech included for 2050. Case study number 4 is the one that closely relates to what my Neuralink implants did in their functions. And that type of implantation is coming in 2030, just like I was saying it would even before this report came out of the Cyborg Soldier 2050 plans for cybernetics and human implantation and augmentation to create cyborg soldiers. This part of the documentation is interesting from the DoD article. Improvements in neural implant technology could be significant by the year 2050. Anticipated improvements would focus on reducing the level of invasiveness of the implant itself. This could be accomplished through location-specific assembly of electrodes using biocompatible nanoparticles that can be directed through an external force, doped iron oxide nanoparticles that can be positioned through the use of directed magnetic fields, or through improvements to the signal acquisition capabilities of externally placed electrodes and processors. So, how to implant the cybernetic implants with minimal invasiveness, either externally on the human body or internally through using nanotech technology. My Neuralink implants were gold fiber optics in my brain, literally, that couldn't be picked up by MRI scanners or CT scans. This was virtually non-detectable by any type of scans. So it was designed to be invisible because it's futuristic cybernetics tech done on Mars that is technology more advanced 200 years than what we currently have or have plans for in 2050. It's even beyond the cybernetics tech that's supposed to come out in 2050 in terms of advancement. I have zero medical or even cybernetics training for how to build cyborgs. Yet I have a technological and even a technical degree of understanding concerning brain functions and implants, despite not working in cybernetics labs on Earth. But I did it on Mars, so I have the know-how and the knowledge of it. Otherwise, I could not have written the presentation on the cybernetics labs if I did not have the technical knowledge to do so. If I didn't have those memories, those recalls of how I did it in the first place, I wouldn't be able to write those presentations about it. But I did do the presentations and I published them on YouTube in 2016, 17, and I also redid them with voiceovers in 2018. So I have enough knowledge to describe what I was doing in those cybernetics labs and how those cyborgs were built, what the technology was, what the implants were, what the facilities looked like. That's all in those presentations. I do have a vivid imagination, but it's not that vivid to be able to describe the technology exactly. And it eerily sounds very similar to the DoD document for 2050 of making cyborg soldiers. I'm sorry, I did not make any of that up. Those memories are mine. They're part of my history of the atrocities committed on Mars against humans being built into cyborgs. That happened. That's my history that I have. Those memories sometimes are very painful, despicable, disgusting, and they're atrocities, but that's what happened, and it could happen on Earth. If it's allowed, it would be disastrous in the end. We don't want transhumanism. As well, I knew that DARPA has been developing neural implants to create neuronal connections to human soldiers since 2016. So DARPA has the capability of creating neural implants so they can create neuronal connections to human soldiers since 2016 and connect soldiers to virtual reality technology with these types of neuronal implants in their brains to do virtual reality simulations of combat fighting in different environmental terrains and how that would be applicable to actual real world interaction of warfighting. So DARPA has been studying this stuff since 2016. The planetary corporations on Mars never allowed complete artificial intelligence robots to be built on Mars, as they did not want AI taking over the humanoid civilizations. So they allowed cyborg humans instead. That way humans still have complete control of the AI implants in their brains and other body parts. Unless the idiot corporations decide to build biologically grown, human-looking cyborgs that are fully AI, then we will potentially have a problem. The show Emergence showcases this well as Battlestar Galactica. That was quite a few years ago. The remade Battlestar Galactica, where they had biological, synthetic, human cyborgs walking around, fitting in with human society, and you could not tell the difference between the human and the biological synthetic cyborg that looked and acted like human and could even procreate and replicate a human being. through intercourse with humans. The biological ability was there, and some of them didn't even know that they weren't human. They thought they were human because they had memories of being human. The cyborgs. So in the future, you might not be able to tell the difference if you're a cyborg or a full human, because you're a component of both, biologically being human and cybernetic fused together into a human cyborg. So in a way, you are both human and a cyborg, because you have biological components that you were born with, and you have cybernetic components fused with your human biology. So you're both. You're a human and a cyborg, making you a human cyborg that fits into human society perfectly, integrates with it, and can even procreate and birth new life. Because you have all the biological components to do so. Here I am describing the Cyborg Soldier 2050 human-machine infusion and the implications for the future of the DoD documentation, the 42-page document, with all the details of how all of this is going to be done to make the human cyborgs. So the U.S. Army Combat Capabilities Development Command, Chemical Biological Center, helped to produce this documentation, and as the title states, it's the Cyborg Soldier 2050 augmentation plans for using cybernetic technologies to be augmented to create human cyborg soldiers. It's very clear what this documentation is and what the intent is. So I downloaded this document on November the 29th, 2019 at 10:49 a.m. and I put the date stamp when I downloaded it. And the dates covered for this documentation, it's September 2018 to August 2019. So the executive summary goes as this: a DoD Biotechnologies for Health and Human Performance Council, BHPC, Alexandria VA study group surveyed a wide range of current and emerging technologies relevant to assisting in augmenting human performance in many domains. The team used this information to develop a series of vignettes as case studies for discussion and analysis, including feasibility, military application, and ethical, legal, and social implications, ELSI considerations. Ultimately, the team selected 4 vignettes as being technically feasible by 2050 or earlier. The following vignettes are relevant to military needs and offer capabilities beyond current military systems, as follows: ocular enhancements to imaging, sight, and situational awareness, restoration and programmed muscular control through an optogenetic bodysuit, sensor web, auditory enhancement for communication and protection, and direct neural enhancement of the human brain for two-way transfer. That can mean communications between one super soldier to another, so that could be synthetic telepathy. Being able to transfer your thoughts to somebody else via the neural implants embedded in the brain, or to transmit data telemetry like video and audio through the ocular implants. So to send it to a database somewhere, to a computer system from your own implants to transfer the data. Here is the study of this design for this documentation. The BHPC study group developed analysis reports based on predictions of technologies capable of enhancing human performance in the present day or potentially within the next 30 years. Each aspect includes technology prediction and concrete examples by which to highlight and address ELSI concerns. The BHPC study group used a capabilities-based approach to design these predictive case studies. The following individual capabilities were prioritized from most impactful to least impactful on the battlefield should a warfighter be enhanced above baseline performance. Number 1, situational awareness. Number 2, strength and speed. Number 3, imaging and sight. Number 4, communication. Number 5, physiology, endurance, sleep, health. Number 6, virtual avatar control. Number 7, attention and memory. Number 8, learning. And number 9, olfaction, sense of smell. These prioritized capabilities prompted the development of 4 vignettes based upon emerging trends in global/human-machine enhancement research. The following 4 case studies, together with their military applications, are described in detail in Section 6, which features the 4 case studies. So first would be the ocular enhancements to imaging, sight, and situational awareness. Second is the restoration and programmed muscular control through an optogenetic bodysuit, or what we call on Mars the smart suits that's made of the nanotech. Number 3, auditory enhancement for communication and protection. And number 4, direct neural enhancement of the human brain for two-way data transfer, which is synthetic telemetry and synthetic telepathy. So telecommunication through the neural link implants, say sending data from one soldier to another from the implants, basically is telecommunication through your implants. Like I was saying, synthetic telepathy and synthetic communication protocols, being able to do that through the implants and send video audio, because these implants have the capability of recording audio and video. Especially on Mars through the Cybernetics labs, they had that capability. So I'd imagine what they mean by sending telemetry through these implants in data transfer is being able to do that as well. Huge chunks of data and video and audio through what the soldier sees through their ocular or brain implants to have those capabilities by 2030 and 2050. The 4 case studies for the Cyborg Soldier 2050 documentation describe direct neural enhancement of the human brain from remote two-way data transfer. These case studies indicated the following. They predicted where technology is likely to yield an outcome by the year 2050 and the capabilities and limitations that would result from the fielding of these technologies. They focused on the technological advances in military capabilities that would fundamentally alter the balance of power or change the nature of warfare in a revolutionary manner in comparison with traditional military hardware. And they provided concrete examples by which to test ELSI frameworks and identify security in ELSI considerations. So these 4 case studies are based on technology predictions for 2050. The case studies are discussed in detail in this section, the tactical applications of the technology used and the advantages it would confer to an individual in the military unit it exists within are described. Case study number 1, ocular enhancement for imaging, sight, and situational awareness, technical employment. In this scenario, individual vision is enhanced to enable sensory perception beyond the normal visible spectrum. Enhanced individuals would also have the ability to analyze images from various wavelengths to discriminate targets and allow identification in complex and cluttered environments. Computational capabilities which would allow for target identification, selection, and data sharing with other individuals or military systems are envisioned. Future battlefields in 2050 are projected to be dense urban environments or subterranean megacities that will challenge identification and tracking of targets. This ocular enhancement will offer small, dismounted teams the ability to acquire and share data in real time. Fast-moving expeditionary units will likely employ enhanced individuals as part of teams that are engaged in a multi-domain battle space in which communications are anticipated to be contested or denied. The enhanced individual would be programmed to be part of the expeditionary unit would be capable of performing functions autonomous of external data feeds. Therefore, the enhanced individual would provide intelligence data drawn from multiple sensory fusion inputs. In short, the individual possessing the ocular enhancement would provide the squadron with a portable sensory fusion capability. Ocular enhancement would be an attractive medical option in situations where the eye tissue has been damaged or destroyed by injury or disease. It is deemed unlikely that individuals would willingly undergo removal of healthy tissue in an area considered to be sensitive. However, the central and critical role that vision plays in society would likely motivate warfighters who have lost part or all of their vision to voluntarily undergo surgery that would restore or even improve their ability to see. Wow, this sounds very futuristic, like they're planning to do battles on other planets or build the subterranean megacities that will challenge identification and tracking of targets. So are they discussing the secret underground bases that they already have built out on Earth? Or is this futuristic warfare somewhere else on other planets, potentially, or an Earth subterranean megacities yet to be built? So this is really thinking of the future. And the technical description for case study number 1 is the enhancement technology is likely to manifest itself in one of two ways. In the first manifestation, an ocular enhancement system would overlay the ocular tissue and retain use of the retinal walls within the existing structure, similar to systems used in ongoing research to treat adults with advanced retinitis pigmentosa. Data streams would be overlaid against the retinal wall and transduced through the optic nerve, where input is interpreted by the brain. It is unlikely that these data inputs would be perceived in the same way that visual light is understood by the brain. In this respect, the warfighter would have to learn how to understand and interpret what the brain is being fed as a raw data stream. Under this situation, the retinal tissue could be altered such that other wavelengths could be interpreted to include infrared regions and beyond. Such capabilities are likely to be available, and they could mature by the year 2030, given that research efforts are already underway at the present time. So it sounds like if you have damaged retinas, damaged eye tissue, your vision is bad, that this kind of ocular implant augmentation would be suitable for people who are either losing their vision or have lost their vision already. So that would make that kind of implant technology attractive to those people because they want to see again. But it says it's only available for soldiers. Probably it would also be available in the civilian market for people that want to have their eyesight back. And at this point, they're like, I'm willing to try anything just so I can see something. So I can understand why this technology would definitely be interesting for those types of people, but I would never, ever agree to have that technology implanted into healthy people with healthy eyesight. It doesn't sound decent at all. And case study number 1 itself says people with good vision, they would never agree to this because they have healthy eyesight. Like, why would they agree to remove healthy eye tissue to get this implant? They wouldn't. This is for people who have damaged eyesight or can't see at all, perhaps. They might want to try this experimental technology. Otherwise, for healthy people, it's not applicable. Then it goes on for case study number 1 to describe the second option. In the second, more complex manifestation, which is anticipated to be mature by the year 2050, the retinal wall is not retained. In this situation, the eyeball itself is completely replaced and data feeds pass directly into the optical nerve bundle behind the eye. The sensory input for visualization would be completely mechanical or electronic in composition, which would allow data feeds of all types and across all spectrums, including those previously not capable of being visualized by humans. The fundamental challenge that will be overcome by 2050 is the ability to feed data directly from an inorganic sensory system into individual neurons within the optical nerve bundle. The development of high bandwidth implantable interfaces that stimulate nerves at the single neuron level will facilitate two-way data transfer that is not currently possible. In essence, the eye would be completely artificial and capable of pulling in any manner of sensory data and feeding it directly into the brain for interpretation. So basically, the ocular eye implant is completely artificial, but it's still connected to the optical nerve bundles and neurons that are still in existence from the removed eye, basically, because the neuronal tissue is still left behind. Your biological eye might be removed, but the neuronal tissue has to remain in order to connect the artificial ocular eye implant to these neurons and the optical nerve bundles itself. So that's still some biological portions of what connected the original eye has to remain to connect it to the cybernetic implanted eye, is what they're saying basically as an explanation, which is logical because my Neuralink implants were, the 4 of them were connected to my neurons and axons in my brain through the fiber optic system. The fiber optics itself was connected to my neurons and axons, which made the Neuralink implants function with my biological systems of the brain in the first place. So biology has to be fused with cybernetics to make it work. That's how it's done. You have to fuse the two together, otherwise it won't work. So case study number 2 is the restoration and programmed muscular control through an optogenetic bodysuit sensor web. The technical description of this is, in this scenario, muscle control is enhanced through a network of in-placed subcutaneous sensors that deliver optogenetic stimulation through programmed light pulses. This enhancement is best described as an implanted digital sensing and stimulation system that is coupled with external sensors, example, boot inserts in wearables, which are linked to a central computational controller. In effect, the human body would have an array of small optical sensors implanted beneath the skin in the body areas that need to be controlled. These sensors could be manifested as thin optical threads that are placed at
regular intervals over critical muscle and nerve bundles, and are linked to a central control area designed to stimulate each node only when the muscles below it are needed. Optical control would occur across the network of optical threads in a programmed manner to affect a fluid muscular action in a choreographed dance. Such a network of implantable muscle sensing, computation, and stimulation provides a closed-loop suit that could be used to decrease injury and mortality rates for soldiers through automated hazard avoidance. The network would also enhance their physical capabilities on the battlefield. That would entail increased speed, strength, hearing, communication, etc. And that's what we call the smart suits on Mars, because they're made of nanotech. And the smart suit, basically, it goes beyond the optogenetic bodysuit sensor web. The smart suit, it's made of total nanotech itself. So it's made to look like wearable clothing. There's no seams in the smart suit. You touch it with your hand, it feels like material. It feels like clothing material, but you touch it with your hand, it opens on command, you get into it, and it closes seamlessly. So there's no zippers, there's no ties, there's no buttons. It's like your daily uniform that you wear while you're in the Cybernetics labs. That's what I wore as a uniform, the nanotech cybernetic smart suit. And it enhanced my speed, it enhanced my strength. It provided telecommunications through the synthetic telemetry that linked up with my Neuralink implants in my brain. So the smart suit and the Neuralink implants would interact on a cybernetic level together through telecommunication. And also, when I wore the smart suit, it literally allowed me to control my bodily functions. So, like, it recycled bodily fluids, so you wouldn't even have to go to the bathroom. Through the nanotech technology, it basically stopped those functions. And menstruation as well, it stopped that. So that's the advancement of nanotech. Literally, while you wear the smart suit, it's your clothing, it's your protection as well against laser fire and weapons, projectile fire, physical weapons, because it has a magnetic energy field around it. So it's your protection, it's your clothing, and also it looks after your health because it tells you your vital signs and about your health and stuff. So this is nanotech at its most advanced, these smart suits. And it also can control temperature and adjust heat and cold to different environments, and it can change color for camouflage. So if you're out in combat situations, your smart suit is basically your protection because you're also wearing a helmet. Because on Mars, the atmosphere is thin, so you do need to wear a environmental helmet, and it's connected to your smart suit. And it also has radar frequencies and stuff, so you could see what's in front of you in long distance with the radar function in the helmet. And it's connected to your nanotech smart suit and the boots and stuff. And some of the smart suits that are more for combat stuff, they actually have anti-gravity propulsion attached to the suit, so you could do liftoff and levitation flight even. But that's a bit more bulky than the general smart suit that you wear every day. So going back to the technical employment of the optogenetic bodysuit. An optogenetic control network could be used in several ways. The most likely would be in the restoration of lost function due to injury of muscles or nerves. Musculoskeletal injuries are the second leading cause of lost duty time in the U.S. Armed forces. An optogenetic augmentation of the affected area would restore function while healing and treatment simultaneously continue. It could even provide a long-term replacement treatment for a permanently damaged capacity. So the smart suits on Mars, with the nanotech embedded in them, have the capability of healing broken legs, arms, bones, brain trauma, any type of disease. It could temporarily fix broken limbs and brain damage as well. So these early type optogenetic bodysuits, they're thinking of that as well, having limited capacity functions for providing some type of healing, temporary healing, and getting that to continue through the sensors in the optogenetic suit to trigger muscle healing. Like if you have broken musculoskeletal injuries, the sensors on this optogenetic suit would basically target your muscles in order to move them through the suit while wearing the suit, so you can walk again, to basically promote movement through sensory loads like electrical charges and stuff. So the suit would allow you to get physiotherapy to walk without having the physiotherapist there. The muscles would be, through the sensors, would be activated. You get a little surge, electrical surge, and it would help you walk again, to retraining for walking. I think that's what that means. As the technology develops toward the year 2050, optogenetic body control could help respond to the persistent demand for warfighters to perform increasingly challenging tasks that often push them to the limits of their physical capability or endurance. Ongoing efforts to develop warfighter exosystems to reduce energy expenditure have revealed that current technologies often impede operator performance and increase metabolic costs. An optogenetically controlled bodysuit could be used to sense an individual's condition and provide a real-time interface between the human and the exosystem. This human enhancement would allow dynamic adaptive coupling of the human body with an extended exosystem, lead to physical behaviors that are more stable and agile, and optimize energy expenditure in operational environments. Optogenetic musculoskeletal control systems would not only allow warfighters to interface with external systems that are not permanently adhered to their bodies, but could also be programmed to control their bodies to perform complex tasks for which they are not accustomed. The optogenetic controller would, in effect, take control of the motions of a warfighter's limbs, thereby allowing a novice, example the warfighter, to perform functions professionally with extended strength and speed, agility, motor function, etc. I think that's what they mean. That externally there could be somebody else that can help control this optogenetic suit if a warfighter is hurt, to get them moving again on the battlefield if they're injured, to help them if they can't control the suit themselves. I think that's what that explanation means. Case number 3 is about auditory enhancement for communication and protection. So tactical employment for this describes the following. In this scenario, enhancement of auditory capabilities would occur through direct replacement or modification of the middle ear bones and the cochlea. The enhancement would afford individuals greater dynamic range of hearing, which would protect or filter overexposure and increase sensitivity to low amplitude sounds. As the technology matures, it could expand the range for sensory perception to what are currently infrasonic and ultrasonic levels. In addition to these enhancements, significant potential exists for advances in communication through external processors and imagined or covert speech as a component of neural signaling. Battlefield-associated hearing loss due to acute or prolonged exposure to high-intensity sounds, such as gunfire explosions or military machines, is one of the most prevalent service-connected disabilities for U.S. veterans. A 2012 study suggests that 10% of veterans suffer from tinnitus, whereas 6% of veterans are diagnosed with some level of hearing loss. Existing technologies such as the Army-sponsored Tactical Communications and Protective System afford some protection. However, the existing technology does not offer enhanced capabilities to the user. Direct modification of an individual's inner or mid-ear regions will allow for implant-controlled protection from high-intensity noises. It could also significantly improve situational awareness through the ability to identify and amplify low-intensity sounds, positioning and localization from passive sensor transmissions, or echolocation and advanced communication capabilities. The current level of invasiveness suggests that this technology would only be employed by individuals with significant hearing loss. Direct replacement or modification of both inner and mid-ear components would be irreversible. Therefore, those with acceptable current auditory capabilities would be unlikely to receive this type of enhancement. This assessment, however, is for existing or near-future technology. Advances in external processor capabilities and minimally invasive electrode implantation in neural networks will likely make these technologies more accessible to the general population by the year 2050. I think what they mean by this is that there will be small wearable external technology, like what we have already for earbuds, for wireless earbuds that you wear in your ears, or a little mic that you have somewhere on your clothing that basically amplifies sound for you to hear. Stuff like that. Or they can have something that's implantable externally through electrodes on your head that would amplify your hearing capabilities. I think that's what they mean by external wearables. And that kind of a technology, like we already have the earbuds, wireless earbuds, and the Bluetooth technology, so we don't have to like literally hold our smartphones in our hands. It's wired, the wireless technology and the Bluetooth, it's wired to work with your cell phone, that you don't even have to hold it in your hand because you're wearing it. You're wearing the earbuds, the wireless ones, and you can hear through them perfectly and talk through it as well, because it's Bluetooth, it's wireless. So your cell phone could be laying somewhere in your car and you're driving, and you can talk through the earbuds and hear through them because it's Bluetooth wireless technology. So some of that is already here. But I think these cochlear implants are basically for people who've lost hearing, and even hearing aids don't work for them. So those types of implants might be feasible for people who've lost complete hearing. And the technical description is cochlear replacement to treat injury-associated or otherwise acquired moderate to severe hearing loss is currently an accepted method of restoring hearing function. An external sound receiver worn behind the ear typically converts sound to a digital signal which travels to an implant within the inner ear that is used to transmit electrical signals directly to the hearing nerves. Despite the success in restoring some function, current recipients can still experience difficulties in multi-talker scenarios or in situations with high background noise, although research suggests that it is possible to track auditory attention, example, the direction or specific source to which an individual is listening. So my neural link implants actually amplified my hearing, my sense of smell, and even my eyesight. So even though I don't have these Neuralink implants anymore, I had 4 of them in my brain, my hearing is really ultrasonic. I can hear beyond the normal frequencies that humans hear in. I can hear extra low frequencies of sound. So I imagine myself like a canine dog that could be on a SWAT team, because I could hear anything and I could smell anything from a mile away. So my hearing and smell are that of a canine SWAT dog. That's what my equivalent is. Because like I can hear little drips and leaks of water, and I ask people around me, do you hear that? And they say, no, I don't hear it. There's nothing wrong. And I'm like, yes, there is. I can hear it. There's a leak here. It needs to be fixed. And they're like, no. And 2 days later, there is a leak that needs to be fixed. And I was the first to hear it because it's so low, the drip. Not everybody could hear it. So that's my example. And I also am like a biological sensor. If anything is wrong in a building, in an environment, I'm the first to find it usually, because I'm the first one to feel the ill effects of it. My body is like a biological sensor for everything that's wrong in the world. I have extrasensory sensitivities to environmental factors on Earth. So basically, if something's wrong in a place, I'll be the first to know about it. My body will tell me. So I don't even need Neuralink implants to figure things out. If there's something going on, I'll know right away. Because my heightened sense of smell, my heightened sense of hearing, my heightened sense of eyesight as well. Although I have astigmatism, I can see things pretty well up close and personal. It's from a distance that I have issues with vision. That's where the astigmatism comes from. But anything close, I can see it microscopically with my eyes. I don't need glasses for that. So I think those Neuralink implants that I had did augment my sense of hearing, my sense of smell, and even eyesight, and how I process things sensory-wise through my brain. Because everything is extra sensitive and on overload. I pick up things that I shouldn't. And I think that's because of the residual effects of the implants. That capability is still there. And that's an example of what my implants allowed me to do. So going back to case study number 3, the enhancement of the auditory implants would afford individuals greater dynamic range of hearing, which would protect or filter overexposure, increase sensitivity to low amplitude sounds. As the technology matures, it could expand the range for sensory perception to what are currently infrasonic and ultrasonic levels. In addition to these enhancements, significant potential exists for advances in communication through external processors and imagined or covert speech as a component of neural signaling. So I think that basically means synthetic telepathy and telepathic communication streams from one person to another, like sending your thoughts out to somebody else who also has these implants in their brain, and you can talk to each other telepathically, because the implant would allow you to do that, where the implant basically replaces the cell phone. the smartphone, the computer. So just by using your brain, you can think about calling somebody through a neural interface and, knocking at their cybernetic wall and like, knock, knock, can I come in? I need to talk to you. And those implants would provide you with that two-way communication, or synthetic telepathy, as that's the wording that's used on Mars for these types of Neuralink implants. Battlefield-associated hearing loss due to acute or prolonged exposure to high-intensity sounds, such as gunfire, explosions, or military machines, is one of the most prevalent service-connected disabilities for U.S. veterans. A 2012 study suggests that 10% of veterans suffer from tinnitus, where 6% of veterans are diagnosed with some level of hearing loss. Existing technologies such as the Army-sponsored tactical communications and protective systems afford some protection. However, the existing technology does not offer enhanced capabilities to the user. Direct modification of an individual's inner mid-ear regions will allow for implant-controlled protection from high-intensity noises. It could also significantly improve situational awareness through the ability to identify and amplify low-intensity sounds, positioning, and localization from passive sensor transmissions or echolocation and advanced communication capabilities. So the reason why I'm going over that percentage again is because these implants could basically restore some hearing loss. And also, the percentage is very bad right now for, like, a lot of veterans from the U.S. Army are losing their hearing because of battle situational explosions, machine fire, gunfire explosions. They're losing their ability for hearing. So these implants would supposedly lower these types of hearing losses and have some kind of a prevention system so you wouldn't lose your hearing while you have the implants. So that's why I'm kind of repeating this paragraph, because with these implants, supposedly you won't have these problems. I think you probably still would have other issues like brain damage, etc., because when you're first testing out technology, it's likely to malfunction. So even though those Neuralink type of cybernetic implants sounds promising, they sound good on paper, but and in theory, but in physicality, those implants can malfunction in the beginning when they're first, implementing the tech. Nothing is perfect. So that's why I went over the stats again. Even though it sounds good, in the beginning it might not be so good when they're first testing these things out on humans. There's liability for brain damage and other neurological, physical damage for trying this out on veterans or soldiers in the field. Nothing's perfect. For military personnel, auditory enhancements would afford protection from high-intensity noises, provide a wider dynamic range of detectable sounds, and afford integrated communication capabilities. In the near term, present day to 2030, it is anticipated that the enhancement will be coupled with networking capabilities and will be used to track human detection of salient objects in an acoustic environment. In squads with limited enhanced personnel, enhanced individuals could detect salient auditory information in the environment and relay it to other squad members using conventional forms of communication. In squads with multiple enhanced individuals, acquisition and distribution of auditory cues to spatially separated individuals could direct attention across an entire squad to actionable stimuli. So in case study number 3, the later iterations of auditory enhancements would likely target 2 key areas. Number 1, the capability for communication through imagined or covert speech, aka synthetic telepathy, and number 2, implants that are significantly less invasive or reversible. With regard to imagined speech, the BHPC study group predicted that within this extended timeline to 2050, significant advances in the understanding of neural pathways will enable not merely improvements to an individual's auditory signal transduction, but also conversion and transmission of these signals to others across distances. This capability could lead to increased acceptance and adoption of this enhancement in areas outside the military, such as intelligence officers, police forces, and others who would benefit from using imperceptible forms of communication. Technologies that allow real-time translation of multiple languages would be useful to military operators as well as civilians. The BHPC group sees potential within the 2050 timeline for advances in the external processor unit and its method of interfacing with auditory nerves and other neural transmission pathways. This way, this technology could be less invasive than cochlear replacement and more likely to be reversible. Electrodes that directly interface with neural pathways could be implanted with a minor surgical procedure and potentially could be removed with minimal adverse effects. So that's external wearables with minimal invasive procedure to literally put electrodes in your brain that can later be reversed if you want it taken out. My Neuralink implants were implanted deep within my brain, and it allowed for synthetic telepathy and 2 or 3 or 4-way communication with several other people. And the range for that communication included beyond planet-to-planet telecommunications. So no matter where I was out in space, I could interface with other individuals a galaxy away with my Neuralink implants. And I could interface as well with different ships and ship technology on board ships. And I didn't have to be in close proximity to those ships. I could be on another ship a galaxy away, literally. That's what my Neuralink implants allowed through the synthetic neuronal connections and the synthetic telepathy, so to speak. So for case study number 4, it's the direct neural enhancement of the human brain. And tactical employment is the following. In this scenario, neural implants for brain-computer interfacing, BCI, would allow for seamless interaction between individuals and secondary assets, machines. This control could be exerted upon drones, weapon systems, and other remote systems operated by an enhanced individual. The enhancement would not simply entail user control of equipment, brain to machine, but also transmission to operator, machine to brain, and human to human command and control dynamics to enhance situational awareness. As drone, computational, analytical, and human information is relayed to the operator. So, with these neural brain enhancements and implants, you can interact with computer systems, you can interact with ships, drones, and human-to-human communication as long as somebody else has these implants. So, very similar to what my implants used to do, and how this all works. It's interesting. Use of remote weapon systems and unmanned vehicles is increasing on the modern battlefield. Vehicle and infrastructure-associated remote weapon systems allow for operators to effectively control the battlefield from a distance in relative safety. Similarly, Unmanned vehicles will play an invaluable role in reconnaissance and long-range targeting of enemy infrastructure, equipment, and personnel. Our current state of technology allows remote weapon systems and unmanned vehicles to be controlled by fixed or portable workstations. Although these current systems are effective, they are hindered by the complexity of user interfaces and the limited information that can be conveyed to the user. Neural enhancement through implantation of modulatory electrodes in the brain will allow for rapid interaction between machine and operator through a read-write type of mechanism. These will enable more rapid and integrated control of multiple assets by the enhanced operator, thus improving battlefield awareness and warfighter lethality. Brain activity will be monitored non-invasively through electrodes placed upon the scalp or skull, or more invasively through the direct implantation of electrodes to the brain surface or deeper structures and networks. At present, researchers have not been able to determine whether the implantation of electrodes is reversible or to what extent affected neural networks adapt to the presence of an implant, thereby complicating removal. As this technology matures, it is anticipated that specialized operators will be using neural implants for enhanced operation of assets by the year 2030. So there could be a lot of potential pitfalls with these neural implants. A, you can be hacked and somebody else can control your implants. Suggested mind control, suggested behaviors. These types of implants are hackable, especially the early versions of them, because it says somebody else can control them. Even though the implants themselves allow you to control different kinds of technology and machines and computers, drones, ships, etc., etc. Well said and done. Yeah, you can do that as the operator with the implants, but somebody else could also control your implants, another operator. So there's the pitfall. Why would you want somebody else in your brain controlling your implants? And potentially these electrodes might not be able to be taken out of your brain, so they could be irreversible. There could be a lot of brain damage with initial trials of new tech that they're just trying out on soldiers and veterans. So there's no guarantee that any of this will work perfectly. In the beginning, it likely will create a lot of brain damage and other physical damage to whoever has these implants. That's part and parcel of trialing things out and experimenting with humans. It never ends well in the beginning. That's horrible transhumanism. So these operators will include teams from the special forces, military pilots, operators of unnamed aerial vehicles, UAVs, or unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, or unmanned surface vehicles, USVs, such as drones and intelligence personnel. So basically, again, I'll rephrase this. These operators will include teams from the special forces, military pilots, operators of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, or unmanned surface vehicles, USVs, such as drones and intelligence personnel. So these neural link implants would be designed for special forces and military pilots and operators of various unmanned vehicles, aerial or surface vehicles. I wouldn't be surprised if much of the UFOs, flying saucers, are unmanned aerial vehicles already that are basically monitoring what's going on with humans, whether that's extraterrestrial vehicles or spying vehicles that are ours in space above us, above our heads. we can see a lot of weird things flying above our heads. I wouldn't be surprised if half of these things are controlled unmanned vehicles that either the US Army or Navy is controlling, or extraterrestrials. Because these implants seem to be able to offer the operators to do a lot of things with unmanned technology without needing to be there physically present in the vehicle itself. So this is dangerous technology that's being proposed and planned. I mean, operators can already remotely control unmanned vehicles, a spycraft. That's already being done. These implants would allow further intrusion of our privacy. If operators can just log in with their Neuralink implants into the unmanned vehicle and just take it anywhere they want without even having to be at the remote facility that's, controlling all this technology. That's dangerous. The BHPC group predicts that by the year 2050, significant advances will be made in the understanding of the neural network and neural implant technology. With greater understanding, it is anticipated there will be larger deployment of these technologies to military forces, enabling use-controlled operation of weapon systems, network communication, and interaction. Example: corpsmen speaking with doctors or specialists in hospitals to aid in field treatment of combat injuries, and improved warfighter awareness through machine-to-brain and machine-enabled remote brain-to-brain communication via the use of distributed sensors, transmitters, and reconnaissance drones. Again, synthetic telepathy. And the technical description goes as follows. Neural implants to enable BCIs provide the brain with input and output channels that are dependent on brain activity rather than peripheral nerves and muscles, which eliminates the need for conventional delivery mechanisms such as joysticks or keyboards. Neural implants to facilitate BCI can be broken into 5 components: signal acquisition, signal processing, feature extraction, classification, and signal transmission. The signal acquisition component can be invasive and involve methods that use microelectrodes directly implanted into regions of the brain or extended across the surface of the brain. Non-invasive methods in which electrodes are positioned on the scalp can also be used. The level of invasiveness directly correlates with the quality of the signal received and transmitted to the processor and classifier components. So I think with all this stuff leading up to the cybernetics implantation of the neuronal implants in soldiers' brains, it will likely enhance holographic technology. So you don't need joysticks or buttons anymore, or keyboards in aerial vehicles, in your cars, in any kind of transportation. It'll all be controlled holographically with your mind through your Neuralink implants. I think it's taking away some of the physical safety features, like a wheel that you can drive in your car and you have total control over it. If you don't have any technology in your car that's hackable, like computer navigation systems, those things in your car can be hacked. Your safety features are all computerized in modern cars now. They're hooked up to an onboard computer. Any of that can be hacked by somebody else remotely, and they can take control of your car and the steering wheel and basically drive your car remotely. Same with planes. Anything on board that has computers that can be controlled remotely can be hacked and taken over. So if somebody has these Neuralink implants, they can literally hack into computer systems in a car, in a plane, in some kind of a ship, and take it over. You no longer have control of your steering wheel. Your futuristic car might not even have a steering wheel anymore. So that's the dangers and pitfalls of these Neuralink implants and holographic technologies. It can be hackable. It could literally kill you if somebody takes over your car and drives it instead of you, depending on the purpose. So the dangers far outweigh the benefits of this technology, in my opinion. I would not want a Neuralink implant again in my brain because it can cause a lot of problems. I'm very telepathic and have a lot of psychic abilities on my own these days with retraining my brain, so I don't need those Neuralink implants to do what they did for me because I could do it on my own for myself now. So yeah, that's the future, cybernetics for you. Anyone could likely get a Neuralink implant by 2060 and do God knows what with it. That's not legal, because any technology that's advanced will likely allow you to do legal things with it if you biohack the tech. And in the wrong hands, that could have disastrous effects, like literally crashing somebody's car into a wall or into somebody else because you want them gone and you want, the cyber hack to be untraceable. Good hackers can do that and cause suspicious crashes of cars if everything is on board computers. You can do that remotely now, even with remote technology. You don't even need a Neuralink implant, and it'll look like a simple car accident when it was murder, literally. So these things are dangerous. So for case study number 4, it says that for the warfighter, neural implants would have broad battlefield applicability. External processors and transmitters would allow for interaction with battlefield assets, example, weapon systems, reconnaissance drones, UAVs, and unmanned marine vehicles, UMVs, as well as personnel within proximity or across distances through hierarchical relays with a central network. Early deployment of BCIs in enhanced individuals would be limited to small-scale, specialized teams in which one or more enhanced personnel would offer squad support through asset control. The level of invasiveness of early iterations and the potential irreversibility of these implants may limit acceptance by military personnel in society, although specialized teams like Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, etc., may be more inclined to accept these technologies if they could provide significant improvements in capability, lethality, survivability, and overall battlefield superiority. Well, again, going back to the fact that with these types of cybernetic implants, you can virtually have access to anything remotely in terms of battlefield applicability, like interaction with battlefield assets, weapon systems, reconnaissance drones, UAVs, and unmanned marine vehicles, UMVs, as well as personnel within proximity or across distances through hierarchical relays with a central network. So if somebody else has these cybernetic implants and you do have them, you can interact one-on-one or in groups together, and you can control weapons, machines, computers, anything you want with your implants. Especially in the military, because that's where all of this will start first and then come to the civilian market eventually. So that technology creates a new set of issues within itself, that you can remotely control anything you want virtually. If you don't have stopgap measures in terms of how your implants are programmed, you can virtually access anything you want unless there is programming that prevents you from doing it, that's put in place for safety. So you can't just go around accessing whatever you want. But then those implants can be hacked and you can go around that issue of stopgap measures for the original programming. So this technology, yes, it has a lot of applications, but it also has a lot of pitfalls for it. And the scope and purpose of the study was as follows. In discussions on human/machine enhancement, we often hear the term cyborg. The word was first used in a 1960 NASA study on long-term space travel, authored by Manfred Kleinis and Nathan Klein. So in discussions on human-machine enhancement, we often hear the term cyborg. The word was first used in a 1960 NASA study on long-term space travel, authored by Manfred Kleinis and Nathan Klein. There you go. For long-term space travel. That's what cyborgs are designed for. And it was first used in 1960 by NASA. The word is a portmanteau formed from cybernetic organism and can be simply defined as an organism that is optimized by dynamic interactions of its organic, flesh, and biomechatronic machine parts, putting human together with cybernetic parts. So organic mixing together with biomechatronic machine parts. It has been said that present-day technology has already created populations of humans that are technically cyborgs. Biologist and philosopher Donna Haraway discusses this in her work, A Cyborg Manifesto, by recognizing that someone with a cardiac pacemaker or implantable cardioverter defibrillator would be considered a cyborg. These devices measure voltage potentials in the body, perform signal processing, and can deliver electrical stimuli using synthetic feedback mechanisms to keep a person alive. Although interesting, these arguments have been set aside in this study because our use of the term cyborg is intended to envision a grander and fundamentally more complex future involving human/machine technologies over the next 30 years. The cyborg technologies assessed in this study go beyond augmentation, which restores function from injury or disease, and are envisioned to enhance performance through a range of modifications from the functional to the radically structural beyond the normal baseline for humans. One can also assume that aspects of cyborg capabilities will be enabled through the use of genetic engineering, synthetic biology, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, or any number of emerging technologies. Discussions of these domains were set aside except those related to 2050 technology predictions, which assumed sound science and reflected accurate assessments of ongoing global R&D efforts. This study does not focus on the path scientists and engineers will take to achieve human-machine enhancement. Rather, it highlights the impact of this development on the DoD and U.S. society. The primary objectives of this study are to predict the direction cyborg technology will take within the next 30 years, determining how that could fundamentally impact national security and make recommendations to senior DoD leadership on how to safeguard the United States and mitigate the threat posed by near-peer exploitation of these technologies. As a critical part of the assessment, the BHPC also identified ELSI considerations related to the fielding of these technologies within the DoD. And again, this write-up, for me, was very significant. Improvements in neural implant technology could be significant by the year 2050. Anticipated improvements would focus on reducing the level of invasiveness of the implant itself. This could be accomplished through location-specific assembly of electrodes using biocompatible nanoparticles that could be directed through an external force, doped iron oxide nanoparticles that can be positioned through the use of directed magnetic fields or through improvements to the signal acquisition capabilities of externally placed electrodes and processors. The study group expects that warfighter needs will influence these technological advancements. However, such advances would be plausibly lead to revolutionary changes in how society interacts with machines on a daily level. These technologies, personal robots, entrainment options in vehicles would be driven and sustained by commercial entities. Well, all of this is based on nanotech technology that allows the creation of the Neuralink implants, the cybernetic implants in your brain, on your body, wherever. And sure, of course, it would be driven and sustained by commercial entities. Because who wouldn't want to be able to remotely control something like machinery, planes, your home even? They're making smart homes now where you can, press a button from your smartphone and turn off the lights in your home when you're 1,000 miles away. So some of this stuff is already here that could be done remotely through smartphones or smart computers. But the vision for the future of 2050, that you can do all of that through your cybernetic implants that are in your brain, or something implanted outside on your brain through electrodes and nanoparticles. That last portion of the paragraph was significant because you can control everything through robotics, also control entertainment options in vehicles. These technologies, like personal robots, entertainment options in vehicles, would be driven and sustained by commercial entities. So different types of corporations wanting to develop Neuralink implants, not just for the US Army or Navy. The corporations would have a field day with this technology being available to them. It would literally change advanced technology as we know it when it jumps to that level of holographics and Neuralink implants and cybernetics and smart suits. It's like an evolutionary leap. But the leap has already been done on Mars. Evolutionary leap already there. Been there, done that, don't want to do that again. But yet, it's coming to Earth near you in 2050 or 2030. It's been done already. It's been tried. It's been perfected. They have perfect Neuralink implants and cybernetics and smart suits. But they want to give us the limited portion of that devolved technology by 2050 to try it on us and experiment on humans on Earth to see whether that would be accepted or not. No thanks. Don't want it. Been there, done that. Did my tour of duty on Mars. Not interested. But for the sake of awareness, the cyborg soldiers are being built on Mars and now they want to do it here. Thought I'd go over this article and what the future plans are by the US Army and Navy for this stuff. Because they want to try it out on humans, on soldiers and veterans. They want to do this, and they have an agenda for 2050 to get this all set up. We don't want transhumanism. I don't want it. Maybe you don't want it either. Here's the awareness about it. I took some quotes from my 2 presentations concerning the Cyborg Soldiers and cybernetic implants, concerning the DoD document and what I already had published before in my public disclosures. So the first time I talked about cyborgs and cybernetic experimentational labs was in my disclosure about the secret space programs in the Dark Fleet presentation that I had published on YouTube on July 24th, 2016 at 4:44 p.m. And this is what I said. Cyborg Experiment Labs. The title was Cyborg Experiment Labs. The Planetary Corporations has cyborg experimentation labs on its Mars bases. PLC is an acronym for Planetary Corporations. Living humans are used against their will as test subjects, with combining cybernetic technology with human body parts. After this has been done, other subjects are used to have their memory engrams transferred to the built cyborg bodies. This is done to see how successful virtual memory implantation can be accomplished in a semi-cybernetic / biological being. The process is called transhumanism. Smart spacesuits. The planetary corporations specialize in the creation and the building of advanced smart spacesuits, which allow the wearer to adapt to different environmental temperatures so they are not hot or cold. Bodily waste fluids are recycled while wearing the smart suit that looks like clothing. These suits also act as camouflage shields so the wearer can become invisible, and also bullet and laser fire is deflected from the suit's electromagnetic energy field, so the individual wearing the suit cannot be injured during battle. So all of these applications in the smart suit, they're based on nanotech technology. Again, all applications from these smart suits are based on nanotech technology. That's what makes it possible to build these smart suits. It's cybernetics. That's why these smart suits are created in the cybernetic labs. Mars SSP assets wear these smart suits on a daily basis while working in the cybernetics labs on the Mars bases themselves. Extraterrestrials wear these smart suits because they designed their own. Why does it seem like these smart suits don't have any zippers, ties, buttons? Because they don't. These suits are genetically configured to the person wearing them. If you're genetically not compatible with the programmed smart suit, you can't wear it. Only the person it's designed for can wear it. It's genetically augmented to conform to them as daily clothing, as protection. Whatever the smart suit is designed for, it's made specifically for the wearer. It's not made for everybody to wear it. Everybody needs genetic programming to wear the smart suit because every smart suit is different and designed for different people. It adjusts to your biological components of who you are as a being. It's genetically imprinted onto you to wear, and nobody else can wear it but you. And the nanotech allows it to look like clothing, to be battle armor, to be a smart spacesuit. Whatever it's designed for, the nanotech is the driving technology that makes it all possible. It's specific to the wearer of it. And it's not just humans wearing it. Extraterrestrials do it as well. And people ask, how is that possible to not have any zippers or ties or buttons? Because it's made out of nanotech. That's why. It seems like it's a fluidic garment that you're wearing. But it's more than a fluidic garment. It's your smart suit. It's what protects you. It's what cybernetically augments you and works with your Neuralink implants as well. It all works in conjunction together. That's why it's built in the cybernetic labs on Mars, because it's advanced nanotech technology. It makes the Neuralink implants, it makes the smart suits possible. That's the tech of the future. 200 years more advanced than what we have here on Earth right now. It's all because of nanotech. Nanotech driven and made. All because of it. So on March 18th, 2017 at 6:24 p.m., I published on YouTube the Cyborg Medical Planetary Corporation's labs on Mars bases. And I described what the cybernetic labs are and what's done in them. So here is the description. Cybernetic labs on Mars bases. The cybernetic labs on the Mars Planetary Corporation's bases create semi-human augmented cyborg soldiers and scouts in order to trade them to other advanced ET species as part of the slave organization, which acquires medical serums, drug serums to stop diseases or end the aging process, receiving technology that is hundreds of years more advanced that they can implement for building better ships, colony facilities, various space stations, weaponry, healing medical pods, etc., as well as gaining rights for more trading routes in space and access to planets where they can build their colonies. That's basically what the planetary corporations do. They're not the good guys. They're not here to help Earth. They look out for themselves and their SSP personnel assets on Mars and elsewhere where they have jurisdiction. The PLC labs use both living and dead body parts for harvesting purposes in order to merge cybernetic technology with the human body component. Human bones can be used for cyborg creation. Only the best tissue matter, body parts, and DNA is selected for splicing with cybernetic technology. There are lab technicians who monitor the selection process for building the human cyborgs. That's basically what I did. I helped to build human cyborgs on Mars. Yes, on Mars in these cybernetics labs. That's why I can write about this, because I was there. Saw it, did it, participated. Maybe you can call it mind control. Maybe it was a situational issue where I was stuck on Mars, couldn't leave, was kidnapped and forced into that job. Whatever it was, I did it, I survived it, I lived. Now I'm here. I'm literally here healing and trying to tell the story of what happened on Mars. It was traumatic. It was atrocious. I still have basically daily living nightmares about what I did. But I did it. Was there. Now I'm just disclosing this. The PLC Mars Cybernetic Labs have cryogenic storage units where body parts, bones, tissue, and DNA samples are stored from unwilling test subjects that were slated to be acquired for the cybernetic programs and experiments. These were unwilling humans and other beings that were kidnapped, that were sold into slavery, or used in the cybernetics labs for whatever reasons for their experiments to make humanoid cyborgs to be sold to other extraterrestrials or to act as cyborg soldiers in the secret space programs. You can call them super soldiers, whatever you want. They're cyborgs. They're human cyborgs. Some of them have memories of who they are and some don't. Some of them have other memory engrams of somebody else, because that can be done. Or they have somebody else's soul in the cyborg body. Physical/computer medical checkup of the eyes and other body parts of the human cyborg soldiers or scouts are done after the cybernetic integration process is complete to make sure that individuals are at optimal health levels, as well as getting biophysical and genetic readouts to fit individuals for their exoskeleton, smart suits, or armor that is configured to their genetic type. Like I was saying before, these smart suits or smart armor or exoskeletons are genetically configured to the being that specifically is wearing it. Nobody else can wear it because if it's not genetically configured to you, somebody else can't wear it. That's the safety feature in these smart suits. Every individual smart suit is configured specifically to the wearer. Again, every individual smart suit configured to the wearer. And I can say it dozens of times. Every individual smart suit is configured specifically to the wearer of it. Nobody else can wear it. That's the safety feature for it. Can't take it out for a test drive to see the mileage on it if you're not genetically compatible to wear the thing. And I guess your Neuralink implants are also genetically specifically programmed to you, the individual who has them in their brain. If I wanted to extract those Neuralink implants from your brain, study the tech, and easily reverse engineer it and put it in my brain, wouldn't work so easily because it's not genetically compatible with my brain. I would literally have to know the genetics and the coding behind that Neuralink implant tech to figure out how to reverse engineer it. If I don't know the genetic components of it and how it's programmed, it's not easy to replicate it. That's the advancement of the 200-year tech. It has genetic components, it has cybernetic components, and it has biological components. And it's all driven by the nanotech. And reverse engineering that is not the easiest thing to do. That's why it's been built in these cybernetic labs that are secret by the Planetary corporations, and it's attached to the Mars bases. When the cyborgs were being manufactured, there had been various human body parts that were being spliced with bio-living machine components, so the Cybernetics laboratory technicians had to have an original imprint of the genome sequence of whoever's soul was going to be put into the cyborg, as that person's DNA needs to match up with the soul's energetic frequency in order to place the soul in the cyborg. So again, the biogenetic component of the soul has to literally match up with the human cyborg that's been built for that specific soul. So it's like taking out somebody's soul, putting it into the human cyborg, and now you have an ultimate avatar for yourself. It's your personal human cyborg, because the Planetary corporations have the electromagnetic technology to literally take out people's souls and swap them out for somebody else's soul. But there is a genetic component involved that the soul has to match up with the human cybernetic cyborg body. Again, it's another built-in safety measure. So you don't just go swapping souls left and right in various human cyborgs. The genome scanner was needed in order to provide the genome sequence for the cyborg whose soul was being integrated with the cybernetics components, and the DNA sequencer would splice together all the codings of the genome sequence so there would be a complete DNA profile within the cyborg. And then the soul would function correctly with the DNA pattern in the cyborg body. It's a safety measure, so you can't just literally take out somebody's soul and place it into a cyborg human body. and then take out that individual's soul and put it into another cyborg body. They have genome scanners, they have sequencer scanners, they have to have your genetic genome imprint on file to code your soul properly to the cyborg human body. So a few safety measures in place to prevent chaos for soul hopping, so that doesn't happen often. There are regeneration tanks that could fully grow clones, ET human hybrids, etc. The regeneration tanks have been utilized in various Black Ops underground medical facilities and labs like Area 51, Antarctica, Mars, and on other planets where full body regeneration of soldiers is required. Even if soldiers or SSB agents are on the brink of death, their regeneration tanks can revive half-dead beings or even those who have already died but have not been dead for a long period of time. The Planetary Corporation's scientists use medical drug serums to alter the body chemistry in order to be able to change genetic characteristics of people. This happens where body mass or shape can turn into humanoid-looking extraterrestrials on a temporary basis, then return the people to looking back to human after a while or short time. As well, the scientists have the ability to combine cybernetic technology with the biological functions of the human body to create augmented cyborgs. The medical pods and stasis transfer holopods are manufactured on the Planetary Corporation's labs that are on Mars, which are located near the Mars base facilities with heavy security. There are also regeneration stations which can scan the body for minor damage like broken bones, burns, or tissue damage, and regenerate bones, cartilage, tissues, etc. So there is no physical damage left to the body after the regeneration process has been completed in the regeneration station. For complete body and brain repair, the medical pods need to be used in order to remove all disease and heavy unrepairable damage, as well as reviving those that have died recently and been dead for close to 14 to 20 hours. Those are the holographic medical pods. And all that technology is built in the Cybernetics labs by the Planetary Corporations attached to the Mars bases. And that's technology that is 200 years more advanced than the current medical technology that we have here on Earth. The Planetary Corporation's cybernetic labs have facilities for creating Neuralink implants that are made from nanite nanotechnology and gold fiber optics. There are ocular Neuralink implants and also deep brain matter fiber implants. These implants record visual telemetry of where individuals go off-world, who they meet, and what type of information the brain is processing. All this recorded telemetry information is sent through the Neuralink brainwave interface to the Planetary Corporation's holographic virtual databases for file classification on different agents, mission intel, ships, planets, aliens, etc. The Neuralink implants are also used to create telepathic connections to be able to interact with onboard ship systems using the mind through technology connection, aka synthetic telepathy. Pilots use the Neuralink interface to merge with supercomputers in order to program flight parameters into ships for navigation and operate the ships this way, as well as communicate with others telepathically who have Neuralink implants. These implants can also act as language translation devices and also augment the brain to have photographic/idiotic memory. or open natural star gateway portals with the mind in order to travel to different planets or star systems. So these Neuralink implants that are 200 years more advanced in technology sound very familiar to what's being proposed in the Cyborg Soldier 2050 documentation, except not so advanced, but similar capabilities. There are also Neuralink chairs in the Cybernetics labs. So the Neuralink chairs are technology that allow augmented humans with Neuralink implants to connect with the neural interface of the cybernetic chair tech and be able to track or monitor individuals at any time remotely, as well as view any events happening on the planet or out in space. These Neuralink chairs can be adapted to view timeline events either backwards in time or forwards in time, seeing the future, as well as open Stargateway portals in order to travel to various points on planets or even different solar systems. That's all connected to the Neuralink implants that have a neural biofeedback connection to the Neuralink chairs. The Neuralink chairs allow to create holographic constructs when individuals communicate with each other in real time through a virtual biofeedback slipstream loop in their minds, seeing places, locations, and other people interacting with each other. That's the connection created by the Neuralink implants interfacing with the Neuralink chairs, thereby enhancing the abilities of the Neuralink implants and the person that's operating the Neuralink implant in their brain. As well, the Neuralink chairs can be used to download information or upload data to them, archive memories, and retrieve information from various databases. The age regression pods have time dilation technology, which can change the temporal condition of living beings by dialing forward the zero-time reference axis in the biological systems of humans, while the time dilation mechanism shifts time backwards to balance the process. There are magnetic magnets, which are inside some of the holographic pods that can trigger memory recall or erase traumatic memories/experiences from the brain. The Planetary Corporation's labs, Cybernetics labs on Mars, have genetic and DNA vaults, which house genetic material of the human species, animals, plants, minerals, etc. From these genetic vaults, replication of the species can be done, and repopulation can be created if there is a catastrophe on Earth or other SSP colonies on different planets. So basically, there are DNA vaults that can replicate humans, animals, plants, minerals, whatever you want. It can be replicated. There's a storage backup on Mars and other planets, just in case there is a catastrophe on Earth. Civilization ends as we know it. Half of the human population is wiped out, or most of it. No problem. We can just replicate you, and there'll be a carbon copy of you on Mars or on another planet, or to basically reseed life on Earth to start over. It can be done now. We have your genetic profile and storage on Mars. Again, the advancements of having technology that is 200 years better and more advanced than what we have on Earth. That's just what Mars Cybernetic Labs have. They've done it, they've created it, and they've replicated it 10 times over and achieved things that's 200 years more advanced than what we have on Earth. There it is. Thank you so much, and namaste.